Okay, kit review time. Today we've got Airfix's 1/350th scale Type 45 Destroyer. Something a little bit different about this one. It's the new breed of the British Destroyer. As you can see, lovely box art on the front, and obviously the markings we're going to be coming with, which is D32, which is HMS Daring, D33 HMS Dauntless, D34 HMS Diamond, D35 HMS Dragon, D36 HMS Defender, and D37 HMS Duncan, all beginning with Ds for Destroyer. Makes it nice and easy. Okay, the box, things around it, we got I think different languages down there, probably not English, and then over here we've got about it, obviously some information about the Type 42s and then the Type 45 destroyers, what we're going to get, as well as a couple of helicopters in the box as well, and everything else like that. Price, as you saw on the price tag there, to be honest, it's not my kit, it's a friend of ours kit. It's around about the sort of £40 mark. As I said, something a little bit different. So in the box, as I say, it's not my kit, so obviously our friend of ours has already been through it, so we'll have a look at the instructions first. As you can imagine, Airfix's normally way of doing it, going through, it's kit number A12203. Okay, so usual thing, as we can imagine, with all their instructions. And then straight on, talking about opening up holes, fair enough. Obviously it's depending on what weapons fit you're going to have to what holes you open up, because obviously there is differences between different types and things like that. And then basically starting on the top half, you're going to be adding a lot of the sort of the bulkheads and obviously major areas. Doesn't take long before you're getting into the small bits, which personally I think you're probably going to leave till last. Okay, then we got the heli area itself, the little hangar for that one, going in through the back, and then up towards the main communications mast and the stacks, or stacker in this case. Okay, putting those in and everything else. Some more of these bulkheads, you can see you're working up with like a plating system with more of the detail bolts onto the side, which is fair enough. Okay, and goes through. So pretty much building up as you would a ship, as you'd imagine. Putting all these areas in, and then obviously you've got the bridge up here being put in. We've got the missile bays underneath coming up, some of those areas, deflectors going on the front rail, and then underneath putting in some bulkhead systems purely to make it a nice snug fit as it goes down. And then it's going to be two halves going together underneath, which will make this somewhat interesting. Okay, so there we go, nice big scene for you to do. Are we going to do waterline? Yes, you do have the option for a waterline, which is very nice. When we say waterline, either means you can do the whole hull, or you could place it onto a diorama, so you don't need the underbit, so it fits better, and you don't have to cut a massive great hole in the bottom of your diorama to fit it in. So you do have the options for those going down in there, and then obviously if you're going to go for the full hull, you've got the stabilizers and the shafts and rudders coming out the back, and the props going on. Okay, so more details going in at the top. Obviously we've got the search radars, things like that going in there. All the lumps and bumps that you can imagine go all over a ship is going to take up the next bit, which if you were with me when I did the Iwo Jima build, you understand takes forever. And making our way through, so we've got actual missile launchers. We've got the guns for the main deck, going through the main gun for the actual ship itself, boarding steps, and then the actual aircraft, which will be interesting to see. So we've got little links here at the back. You can either have the rotors open or we can have them folded up. Same goes with the Merlin as well, and then obviously fitting them in. So I imagine you can either have one door or other. I don't think it'll be carrying both. And then we've got the call out, which is quite handy, being that it's in colour. Depending on which one you're doing, obviously HMS Dragon here had the well, nose art, I suppose you'd call it, on the front, obviously with the dragon, the Welsh dragon on there as well. So call outs, I presume, are pretty generic for everyone apart from names and numbers and things like that between them all. Okay, and going through, but anyway, it gives you your call outs down there and your actual colours. So not too bad at all. Now, obviously we've done ships in the past and reviewed them, and there's nothing to look at because there's so many tiny bits that go on that make up the detail. So the only thing that sort of worries me, but it doesn't worry me that much, is some of the sink marks on this. But a lot of these sink marks, like this giant guy here, you're not going to worry about because it's got things going on it, so it doesn't actually make it a problem. Okay, generally looking around, looking at the detail, we look on the close-up and sort of pan through, you can see there's not much to see. What we are looking out for is obviously surface texture, things like that down here on the deck. Pretty good. If you can catch them in the light, there we go. You can see we've got the drainage holes, and I presume that also doubles up as a fire extinguisher points for the washdown as they go through. The lower hull, quite nice, no centre seam down in there and all the rest of it. So as you said, pretty bland on the old detail. It's the more detailed parts we want to look at. So speaking of which, massive chunky sprues that we've come to love from Airfix. Okay, some of these details, as you can see, we've actually got, looks like these are the missile tube launch tubes, very nicely detailed, actually pretty sharp details. We've got lumps, bumps, grooves, raised detail on those, which is quite a nice touch. Down here, obviously you've got doors and ladders, you know, lightly, you know, they're all raised details, but they're pretty good. Okay, they're not too bad. I think by the time, as said, like we did with Iwo Jima, you know, sort of get on some nice paintwork onto this and then dry brushing and some washes, you can actually do pretty much with this. So really the detail's not too bad. The ship side itself, as you can imagine, there isn't much on here. What I'm looking for is sink marks and anything that's going to prove to be a problem for you, of which I can't really find any, so that's not too bad at all. Some nice details in there. Okay, and on the other side, so again, we've got a lot of this, we've got bulkheads down here, bit nasty I suppose if you want. This is the stand for it if you want to put it on a stand. It's not brilliant detail, it's not jumping out and saying wow this is fantastic, but you know, I think it's doable. It's a little bit soft if we're honest, some of this detail here. To be honest, I'm looking at this on the HD monitor over there and it looks better than it does to the eyesight. It's not sharp, it's a little bit softly molded and everything else like that. You don't really have to worry about, you know, ejector pin marks and stuff like this on this, because most of it will all be on the other side, but generally just a little bit soft, not as sharp as perhaps you would want. Okay, so some of the little bits and pieces. So okie doke, we're looking down on here, so we got the Zodiac, or the ribs. They're moulded in one, which is quite a nice touch and not too bad at all actually. So you've got the seating for the ribs and everything else down there. We've got the bridge. Obviously this is some of your details up there. It's pretty sparse, but obviously because of the scale that's not too bad. We've got the life rafts. These are obviously the chaff and the flare launchers, things like that. Searchlights, the various bits you'd expect. Okay, the boarding ladders, not too bad at all as you're going up and everything else. Got the stabilisers, should be a nice fit on there. Can't see any problem with it. The only thing I imagine, it's all just a little bit clunky. And your last sprue. So as I said, there isn't a million sprues with this one. It is pretty sort of good. Generally, flash is a little bit over here. We've got some drag flash. It's running across, so it's probably removed from the mould. Something's stuck and pulled out, so I wouldn't take any notice of that. But certainly all the rest of it doesn't seem to be too bad. It's Airfix's typical soft plastic, and the screws, to be honest, the actual propellers down the back here, they're a little bit flashy and a little bit messy, but you can easily clean them up. I wouldn't, you know, just write them off. They're not too bad. The actual Merlin helicopter doesn't look too bad. I think that would be okay once he's painted and weathered up a little bit. The Lynx, if I'm honest, is a little bit more crude. It's not the best in the world, not by the size of them doors it's going to have, and all the rest of it, but we are talking a very small scale, so you know, generally some of this more finer detail just needs sharpening up a little bit. You know, it might be nice, I presume there is a photo etch set to replace it. Some of these little things, details like this, which on ships really stand out, it's nice to have a photo etch set to do that. The actual main propellers, rotors even, a little bit flashy, all of those need a bit of clean-up if you're going to do it, and generally working our way down all the other bits and pieces, not too bad. They're all in here, all moulded. Sharpness is the thing I would say on this. Then it's not the sharpest moulding, considering it's one of their new ones, shall we say. It's not as sharp as perhaps I would like it. I would like to see it be a little bit sharper, a little bit nicer and everything else. But there we go, that is the Airfix's Type 45 Destroyer. Not the best, not the worst.